There's no doubt that recycling is a big issue in today's society, but why is it so important? Let's find out.
Well, I guess the landfill site behind us is why it's important. You know, there aren't that many of them left in the country. I'm from Bradford. We have to bring our waste to Wakefield to get rid of it. The waste from Keighley, which is also part of the Bradford district, has to go to a landfill site near Skipton. There are no operational landfill sites in Bradford, so we are long hauling waste in lorries with all the environmental costs of that to landfill sites, and when waste's in landfill site it's creating methane, it's potent greenhouse gas, and as a society we need to be doing something about that.
It's important for a number of reasons. Partly because we live in a world of finite resources. I mean, there are only so many things to go around, whether it be trees that produce paper, whether it be all sorts of other materials, whether it be oils, and so on and so forth, in terms of glass, in terms of cans and so on.
At the moment, Bradford only provides curbside recycling to half the population, and that's only for paper. What are Bradford doing to further this provision?
There are 200,000 households in Bradford district, and over half of them, more than 100,000 households, now have a second wheelie bin for paper. 30,000 households can recycle glass and cans from their back door. This summer we've introduced a curbside collection of organic waste. That's monthly collection of garden waste. So we've got paper, glass and cans, organic waste. We're supporting furniture recycling schemes. All the evidence is that if you provide easy to use recycling facilities at the back door, people will use them. And I think testament to that is that Bradford's recycling rate's gone from single figures to 17% last year, and so far this year we're getting nearly 20%. So we're starting to make some considerable headway.
I mean, the problem with Bradford Council, to be honest, is that whilst there are some very good people within the council at officer level in terms of trying to change the culture and trying to change the way that we recycle, the way that we reuse, or the fact that we don't. I think there's a political culture that's fairly obstructionist in those terms. The politics or the politicians in Bradford will respond if they're forced to. The government at the moment has a system that's called LATs, which is effectively fines for not recycling a certain proportion of our waste. Because we didn't reach or didn't hit the target of 25% of waste recycling in January this year, it meant that Bradford Council was fined. Quite rightly, I believe. I mean, Bradford Council should be fined for not reaching those targets.
You see, the percentage of waste being produced is going up all the time. We have increased the amount that is being recycled. Year on year, Bradford are increasing the amounts that are being recycled. But unfortunately, the amount of waste being produced is going up.
Well, if you look at Bradford Council compared with the other 4 West Yorkshire districts, we're all about 17, 18%, 19% last year. So we are average for a metropolitan district. If you compare us with, say, some of the more low-density rural areas, I think that the national lead is something like Daventry Council. They're up to 40%. But the low performers are still in single figures.
There are other councils that are doing a heck of a lot better. It should also be said that there are some councils that are doing a heck of a lot worse. I think Liverpool's, and last figure I came across there was they recycled about 2% of their waste, and Bradford's now hitting 16-17%. Plus, it is getting better. It was 10% only a couple of years ago, so we are improving. But there are other councils, such as, I was down in the Isle of Wight a few years ago, where they were recycling over 50%, and that's because they had a really effective curbside collection. So I mean, it can be done.
We in Bradford produce 300,000 tonnes of waste from a population of 500,000, and if you scale that up to the UK, it's an enormous amount of material.
So, how does the actual process of recycling work? Well, here in Bradford, the domestic waste is collected weekly, while the recyclable material is collected monthly. All the waste is brought here to Bowlingback Lane Waste Sorting Centre. The domestic waste, the paper, the cans, the glass and the plastic. I spoke to site supervisor Gary Presland.
In this room we recycle what the public put in recycling containers, comes in here for sorting and segregating into different qualities. What's going through at the moment is plastic bottles, which is segregated into two sections, quality plastic and lesser quality plastic. It's then bulked up and shipped out to two separate end destinations. The plastic leaves here and it goes to recycling companies that turn it into either new bottles, bags, wheelie bins, it can turn it into any other plastic type product.
This is where plastic is sorted.
It's constantly going, all the time, there's always constant demand. It's a very busy place.
From Bowlingback Lane, the reusable waste is sent to various locations around Britain. The paper, for example, goes to Shotton paper mills in Wales to become new paper. The domestic waste, however, is sent right here. Welcome to Welbeck. Welbeck Landfill and Reclamation Site in Wakefield, opened in 1997. Below me are 75 metres of waste that have accumulated over the 8 years the site has been open. This is one of the largest landfill sites in the country, serving over 5 local councils. Landfill sites are heavily regulated, so Welbeck employs several methods to control the waste, including large nets for catching loose litter and hawks to control vermin. That's how waste collection and recycling works in Bradford. We asked the people of Bradford what they thought and whether or not they recycled.
When I finish with my papers or whatever, I put them into the green bin, which is for recycling purposes only.
Milk cartons, the empty milk cartons, I'm sure they're recyclable. I put them in the wheelie bin because there's no other facilities for it.
I don't know many places where I can recycle.
Yeah, because we don't have bins and stuff where we live, it's quite hard because you have to walk all the way to the recycling bins, and yeah, so it would be a lot more convenient.
The newspapers and glass bottles, I usually take down to the recycling place at the university.
At home we both live in London and they give us like boxes to put all like different recycling in, and they don't do none of that here, so we just like put it all in the same rubbish and it goes. Yeah.
Plastic bottles, definitely plastic bottles, and carrier bags as well. They're quite a nuisance. It takes so many hundreds of years to dissolve apparently.
I mean, I personally have a bin for bottles and a bin for paper and then the bin for the ordinary rubbish. So, you know, I have to do this every day. I have to wash the cans out and the bottles, the wine bottles, the sardine tins and the beans. So we're doing all that for Bradford.
They don't ever give us, you know them recycling bags, yeah? They don't ever give us them bags, man. So how do they expect us to recycle things if they don't provide the equipment for us to recycle, you know? So the place messed up. That's why, you know.
At the moment, Bradford only provides curbside recycling to half the population, and that's only for paper. What are Bradford doing to further this provision?
4 or 5 years ago, we had 20,000 households with a second bin for recycling. Now we're up to over 100,000. Still a long way to go because Bradford's a big district. The council's put capital resources in place. We've got £2.2 million this year to expand recycling, and we've also been bidding from the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA as it's called, for resources to improve the recycling rate in the district.
I think what you need to do is to, as we discussed earlier, I think is making it easier for people to recycle. If you make it easier, a lot of people will recycle who don't now do it.
I think a lot of people actually would like to do more recycling,
but it's just the mechanism we need to have in place, i.e. Probably we're looking at the various options actually. We're probably looking at, a lot of people have secondary wheelie bins to do paper recycling. A lot of people have been given additional bin actually to do more recycling. So, but obviously we'll have to look at the mechanism actually where we can give residents actually opportunity to do recycling at the doorstep.
If we were given like the stuff to put the shit in, then do you know what I mean? We'd do it. So
we'd only do it if it came to our door, though. We're not going to go out and recycle.
Well, at the moment I've only got one paper bin, which is newspaper, which is collected once a month. That's the only thing that I have at the moment.
There was actually a leaflet came round. What kind of bothered me was that, like, if there's only me applies for it on the street, like, the environmental damage of driving a truck just up to pick up rubbish from one person's house probably outweighs any kind of environmental benefit from them, you know, any environmental benefit from actually recycling the stuff. So I haven't really. I know that there are ways of doing it, but like, unless everyone in the street is interested, you know, I can't really see how it's going to carry on.
I think everybody should do it. If it's there, use it. If there's a facility that's coming on, let's have it, you know.
All the evidence is that if you provide easy-to-use recycling facilities at the back door, people will use them. And I think testament to that is that Bradford's recycling rate's gone from single figures to 17% last year, and so far this year we're getting nearly 20%. So we're starting to make some considerable headway.
So, Bradford Council is doing all they can in terms of providing facilities to enable recycling. But what about encouraging a culture of recycling?
I think the culture is there within many of us, not within all of us. I mean, I'm not, you know, it's not that everyone is an ultra mad, keen recycler, but I think within a lot of people there is this culture within themselves to recycle. They want to do it, they're keen to do it, but it needs to be made easier. But it is about public information. It's explaining why recycling is important, not just. It comes back to this notion again about not just telling people that they need to recycle because the council says so, or because the government says so, or even that because it's a good thing to do, but explaining that, you know, the reason why we recycle is to is for these reasons. And I mean, I'd be quite keen, for instance, to see on the bins, the recycling bins that they have, to put a label on there saying why the council wants to recycle these goods, why it wants to recycle paper, why it wants to recycle glass, and the impact of not recycling. So I think you can create that culture by giving people the information.
Obviously, the culture of recycling starts if we as a council provide the facilities for residents to recycle into. So we've got the extra bins at the curbside, extra bags. Also, of course, there's the supermarkets. We've been encouraging them to have drop-off recycling banks so that, again, people go into a supermarket can drop off glass, paper, plastics, what have you. And if you go to our civic community sites, the household waste sites in the district, those now have provision for all sorts of recycling, not just the stuff that's in your dustbin, but things like rubble, big bits of garden waste. Increasingly importantly, things like electrical goods, fridges, freezers, cookers, washers, those sorts of things. So by making a provision in the district, comprehensive provision, will encourage recycling. And then, of course, there's the education programmes.
What do you hope to achieve by encouraging recycling?
Basically to educate people, to if people know what they can recycle and where they can go, they will actually actively take part. If it's constantly being reinforced, and if the message is constantly being put over and got through to.
What would you say is the biggest hindrance to recycling? The council not providing the facilities, or people not using them?
Right, the facilities are there, but it does take a degree of organisation. If you're having a trip to the recycling point in the car, it seems silly to go with just a few items. You need to organise gathering together the items that you want to take and making one trip when you go to do the shopping, when you're passing, not making special journeys, or that just wastes petrol.
Every time we create new products, we're wasting resources and creating greenhouse gases that lead to global climate change.
I haven't got the figures to hand to my head, but they are huge in terms of the energy use for new products and the energy use for recycled products. They are very, very significant. And also the contribution, of course, to climate change, and which is very much a very, very topical issue, which has been very much in the news this year for a number of reasons. And the contribution to climate change, to new production and use of the Earth's resources is massive.
If we continue consuming at our current rate and don't recycle, then beautiful spaces like Baildon Moor here near Bradford could become landfills of the future. Is this what we really want?
landfill and see what happens to our waste. And one of the things that we all ought to be a bit concerned about the amount of material that's going into landfill sites in the UK.
Recycling is imperative, not to mankind but to planet as a whole.
People have to look at the future of the planet. Because if the planet's not here, then we ain't got a future.
Simply got to start doing something else with waste. We've got to start extracting material and value from it.
Let's get in there and save the world well done.